The phrase blind to the truth is an adage that describes a lack of unawareness or outright denial of facts. Hello, I'm Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. Blind to see the truth? You've probably heard the saying before, but what does it mean? Well, imagine someone struggling to grasp the full meaning or message of a book that they're reading, or someone refusing to accept certain facts because, well, they find them inconvenient. It's fair to wonder if we only believe what we wish to believe. Now, many years ago, I spoke about what was coined as the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is a phenomenon in which many people share a false memory of an event, well, that never occurred. You know, there are numerous examples of people recalling things that never actually happened. Conversely, there are also countless instances where people just refuse to believe the truth, even when it's clearly presented to them. Perhaps it's you. Maybe you're prone to ignoring the truth because of how it makes you feel. The phrase blind to the truth highlights an unawareness or denial of facts stemming from how our perception can sometimes be stubborn. Have you ever closed your mind to facts that are hard to believe? It's a common behaviour, but if you notice yourself doing it frequently, it's important to pause and reflect. So what facts are you blind to right now? Many people have conversations about the truth, but they often are ignored because they fail to see them. It hurts knowing that one can be blind to the truth. Despite all the signs being evident, they choose to overlook them. So consider this. Perhaps the most profound example of truth is often ignored, even though it's apparent in everyday life. Like, for example, when the sun rises, it signifies the start of a new day. But this occurs because God created the earth, the cycle of day and night, and humanity itself. Most people will acknowledge his power, but they fail to recognize the origin of life, and that responsibility just lies with them. It's true what the apostle said. God has blinded their eyes and closed their minds so that their eyes would not see and their minds would not understand. John 12:40. Even earlier in Isaiah chapter 6, and he said to me, make the minds of these people dull, their ears deaf and their eyes blind, so that they can't see or hear or understand. If they did, they might turn to me and be healed. Why is it that we've all become so immune to the acceptance of truth? And to be honest, it's getting worse instead of better. No longer is truth truth, and the reason for that is twofold. One, from man's beginning, truth has been disputed, and what you choose to believe is your own truth. Refusing to accept truth has been the downfall of mankind for, well, centuries. Secondly, we're urged not to listen to the true story more and more today as we live our busy lives in this modern technological age. It wasn't too long ago we used to sit down on a Saturday morning, as an example, on the floor with a cup of coffee and spread that big broadsheet-sized newspaper on the floor and read the stories and the news which were presented fairly. All at the same time your cat was sitting there, sitting on your paper to stop it blowing away. But today read any story online produced by any news organisation, whether it be Stuff, the Herald or Newsroom, at the top of the page there's a notation as to whether it's a 2 or 4 minute read. To be honest, you know, when I worked as a journalist, the company I wrote for, they were just starting to electronically to analyse the time a story was open for. Usually it was long enough to basically read the first paragraph, or if you like, everything down to that first advertisement. Likewise, we can analyse the amount of time that you watch our videos, but sometimes we just don't have to use electronic tracing because, well, we receive many comments and these are an indication if people have taken the time to hear all the message. So look, can I say thanks for listening and watching thus far, but here's the point I want to make, and it goes back to what we have been saying, and that is watch that no one misleads you. And therein lies an issue in today's modern Christian world. Just as it was in the Apostle Paul's day, where in his second letter to the Corinthians in chapter 11, he spoke in defence of his own ministry about what he called the super apostles that were appearing. And today, we have what could be referred to as the super apostles in our day. You know, they're the ones who have the big names, the big churches, the big congregations, the worldwide following. It's a bit like a cult mentality, though, an unwavering devotion to these preachers that Christians blindly follow and believe every word which comes from their pulpit. And woe betide anyone who speaks against them. In the days of Jeremiah, he spoke about his small audiences when speaking about the fall of Jerusalem, and yet there were other prophets in his time tickling the ears of large crowds. In Jeremiah 23:16, he said, "This is what the Lord Almighty says, do not listen to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord." And then further down in Jeremiah 23:25, we read where God said, "I've heard what the prophets are saying, who prophesied lies in my name. They say, I had a dream, I had a dream." Or if you like, "God told me to tell you this." How long will this continue in the hearts of these lying prophets who prophesy the delusions of their own minds, he asks. Recently, many of our viewers erupted over the idea of somebody like Dr. David Jeremiah suggesting the rapture would take place this year, and the outpouring of support, and also that of Brian Tamaki a couple of weeks earlier, was commendable that you came to their defence. But the point is, in both cases, we weren't being critical of either of them, but pointing out that we as Christians, followers of Jesus Christ and seekers of truth, we must stay on the watch, guard our hearts, and keep the super apostles accountable. Now, the avalanche of feedback where the subject matter has been questioned, and some have even seen some of the topics as an attack on the status quo, and yet we as an organisation, following extensive research and evidence, have presented the truth. And yet for some, it irritates the ears, and because we dare to raise the issues preached by these super apostles, you refuse to accept it or even bother to check for yourself, and in turn, basically attack the messenger. Our intent was not to attack the individual, but to point out that we can be easily deceived. In one instance, we asked, was it true? And in the other, we weren't questioning the message, but the method. I guess people only hear what they want to hear, and they remain blinded to the actual message. Still, I can't help but asking, what if the statement made by the super apostle was indeed correct? The Apostle Paul in the book of Acts praised the Bereans for testing everything against the scriptures. So let's not remain blind to what's happening around us. Take the time to seek and verify the truth, not just what you find convenient to believe. Now, while I haven't touched on spiritual blindness, I feel given the way the world is going, I can't help but feel that it's the blind leading the blind these days. If you wonder, though, what spiritually being blind to the truth means, it's that you can't see Christ because you've hardened your heart and you won't come to the knowledge of the truth. You know, Satan comes in the picture and blinds the minds of unbelievers so that they won't come to the truth. So I ask you, are you blind and cannot see? But I urge you to stay awake, stay on the watch. Jesus said, many will come in my name. Beware the wolves who come in sheep's clothing. Hey, thank you once again for your input into this ministry. You know, we really do appreciate your feedback, and it's our goal to present a view of today's culture through the lens of God's irrefutable word, the Bible.